So if you want to.
Okay. All right. We are live. We are good. We are not having an echo anymore. Thank you so much for being here. And Rita, I'll let you continue on while I get set up here and just kind of, we are having a little technical difficulties with internet in Mexico. But yeah, go ahead, Rita, and then I'll jump in.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Awesome. You could make it, Carrie. So glad. And we were speaking to this subject of restoring balance in our body and how does it get out of balance? How does there become an overgrowth of certain bacteria or candida or fungus in the body, or, that mold toxicity? What's actually happening? And we were speaking to the gut microbiome and how important this is. And just to start, at least 80% of our immune function happens in our gut. And glutathione is an antioxidant that is produced in our gut microbiome, and that really contributes to our immune health. And when there is such things as mold toxicity or overgrowth of bacteria, or other environmental toxins such as glyphosate, which acts as an antibiotic, those actually create injury to our gut and stop that production of glutathione. And so it's really important when we're looking at, anything that involves the body getting back into its balance, that we start with that gut health. And so what causes that gut injury, as we were speaking, it can be so many different environmental toxins. And what that does is it actually stops that communication to our cellular network. And so much of our gut health actually comes back to our cell health. And our cells, what produces healthy cells is cellular ATP production from our mitochondria. And so really we want to look at the body as one whole ecosystem. And so not only when we're experiencing gut microbiome injury, that is so important at every capacity, because as we start to see that, we start to see leaky gut. And as we start to see leaky gut, then we start to see leaky brain. And then we start to see leaky kidneys. And all of that leads to these larger symptoms, such as neurological damage, or the body's not able then to eliminate our cellular wastes. So I know Carrie is going to speak a lot to our lymphatic system and our gut health and our body's elimination system. But I just wanted to open up, that importance of the biodiversity in our body. So Carrie, I know you have a lot prepared on this subject. If you want to hop in and share a little bit about our body's elimination systems and how that really impacts our health at every level.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rita. And thanks for your patience, everyone. We're getting launched. And Rita and I were just discussing before this, we're going to create this as a 2-part class, because there's so much information that if I throw it all at you right now, your eyes are going to roll back in the back of your head. So we'll do a follow-up next Monday on this topic as we dive deeper into it. But I want to talk about this because so many people are dealing with candida overgrowth, with fungus, with Lyme disease is on the rise, and just parasitic, and then, the state of the world, the viruses that we're experiencing as well. And so I like to give, the example of the fish tank theory. So if you have a dirty fish tank, you wouldn't vaccinate the fish tank, you would clean the fish tank, right? So you have a clean fish tank and a dirty fish tank. And this is germ theory versus terrain theory. So understanding what sort of terrain your current body is in is extremely important. So like Rita was explaining, we are trillions of cells and 2 fluids. We have blood and we have lymph. The blood feeds and the lymph cleans. And the lymph cleans via the kidneys. So it cleans all of your tissues and cells. It brings the waste to the kidneys filter it out through the urine. This is one of many elimination pathways, which I'm going to hop into in a moment. If this main elimination pathway is not open, then all of your cellular waste and lymphatic waste is dumping all your cellular waste is dumping into the lymph, and then all your lymphatic waste is actually backing up the bile ducts, the kidney ducts, the colon, and then coming through the skin and oftentimes making it into the blood and into the brain, which is known as our glymphatic system. So signs that you have a fungal overgrowth or mold toxicity or Lyme disease, obviously, I don't really like to go through symptomology of Lyme because autoimmune and Lyme are very parallel in their symptoms, and we can overdiagnose people. But if you know that you've been bit by a tick, if you know that you've had Lyme disease and you're actively in your process for this, then I would really tune into this next pieces of information. But your brain fog is number one, and brain fog is actually way more than, like, we say, like mom brain, or like, oh, I'm just tired, or I work a lot. But brain fog is sadly common but not normal. And brain fog means that actually toxins have made it into the blood and crossed the blood-brain barrier and into the brain. So the brain's just like, I can't even function. So I pay really close attention to brain fog. That also is a sign that the drainage is backed up to the head. And so the drainage goes in a specific order. But before I get there, let's talk about the nature of parasites. And this I could talk about forever, but parasites are highly intelligent. When your gut microbiome is depleted, you are inviting in an environment for antigens, pathogens, parasites, and microbes. If you have low hydrochloric acid in your gut, when pathogens come in, say you touch a doorknob, they're microscopic, they come in, your hydrochloric acid is really low, it can't fight that pathogen, and so then it starts to multiply in your gut. That's one way. The other is through eating acid-forming foods. So a lot of our acid-forming foods actually feed different bacteria. So like we're trillions of cells in two fluids, we have 10 times more bacteria than we have cells. So this bacteria kingdom is incredibly intelligent, and it will multiply based on what you're feeding it. So there are certain bacteria that when you feed, actually start to multiply more of the candida. They start to multiply. Basically, the reason why those bacteria are multiplying is to clean up excess waste, excess protein waste, excess cellular waste, and just make sure you mute as you come in, please. I'm muting everybody. And then, so we start to get this systemic acidosis, cellular waste left over in the system. And then these bacteria start to multiply to clean up this waste. And then you start craving things like sugar, starch, pasta, breads, fats. And that's because it's feeding this bacteria. Now, there's other bacteria, like there are actual fiber eating bacteria, which is super, super cool. But the fiber eating bacteria are really essential to our overall human health because they not only eat fiber, but they actually eat up macrophages and damaged cells. So they see a broken cell or a damaged cell that's been broken down by its own acid waste, and it starts to dissolve it and eat it up. It also produces what's called T cells, and these are, I don't like this phrase, but anti-autoimmune, meaning they're supporting your immune health so that you don't end up in an autoimmune position. And so the types of foods that you're eating are going to contribute to whether you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria or you have a perfect harmony of bacteria in your body. And so if you're a kind of person that is like, oh, I've done these candida cleanses, I've done this, I've done that, it just keeps coming back, we have to look at many different pieces. One, what's going on in the diet, because we can take as many supplements as we want, but if we're feeding that bacteria, we're going to keep multiplying. It's like you're creating push-ups for certain bacteria. You're like, keep growing, keep doing this. And we need to change what we're feeding our bodies. We need to get in control of the environment. And so the second thing is are your drainage pathways open? And that's super, super important. So like we are all here, a lot of you here have done our 30-day protocols. I look at our 30-day protocol as phase 1. So there's many phases. When I work with people with mold and Lyme and candida and yeast and deep levels of fungus, like maybe they've had ringworm on the skin or they have Lyme disease, my education has continued to develop over the last several years. And now I take my intense patients through a 10-month protocol. And a 4-month protocol is the minimum that I recommend to get health back if you're dealing with acute issues. And if you've dealt with chronic issues, which is long-term, you should go through a 10-month protocol and move through. But before I move into that stuff, I want to just chat one more time about symptoms that you might be dealing with fungal overgrowth. So brain fog, inflammation, belly bloat, white, yellow, or green tongue in the morning, yellow toenails, itchy skin, psoriasis. That's actually fungus coming through the skin. Itchy scalp, itchy feet. I mean, really itching in general is fungal related, and it will make you feel really uncomfortable and like frustrated and angry. That's also another sign, anger. Like a lot of anger outbursts means that the liver and the gallbladder is really bogged down with parasites and overgrowth of bad bacteria. Being super irritable or edgy, and then that chronic brain fog, like we mentioned, and then the excess cravings for bad foods. So those are the symptoms that you'd be experiencing. The problem is we need to heal the gut biome, get those immune cells supported, and then we need to make sure the drainage pathways are open. So I want to share my screen really quick and just share a little bit here. There's so much information. I'm a little out of sorts because our internet wasn't working. But everybody can see this picture here. Can you see that, Rita? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the first eliminative pathway that has to open is actually the colon. So I love, like, you know, our 30-day protocols start by like flooding your body with organic cellular nourishment, removing the junk out of the colon. And that's why we start there, is we actually have to nourish our body and support our immune health before we can detoxify. So I want to explain the difference. Like, we talk about detoxification all the time. We're regenerative detoxification specialists. Well, what does that mean? Detoxification actually means removing the removal of chemical substances from the body, from the tissues or from the cells. So there's drainage and then there's detox, and they are different. So we first have to have drainage open, number one. So I first have to nourish somebody. So we get them nourished so that their body is ready to detoxify. So we use our organic micronutrient support, our high level of amino acid support, and then we're removing the chemical pesticides that are blocking up the colon and blocking up the microvilli from absorbing proper nutrition. And it's remineralizing the gut and creating that healthy gut bacteria again. So now we're starting to get the healthy flora. We're removing the pesticides. Now you must be eliminating through the colon. It is essential. If you're not eliminating through the colon, you need support. There are ways, there are things to do. Switch your diet, increase your fruits, increase your citrus. If you need a temporary oxygenated magnesium, that is just a Band-Aid to a deeper issue, but it will help with the elimination. And elimination on a daily basis is important. A person that's healthy, that is not dealing with chronic disease, should poop twice a day. 3 times is amazing, twice is good. A person that is going through detoxification, that is dealing with acute or chronic conditions, should be pooping 3 and sometimes 4 times a day, because there's excess backup of waste. So we want to make sure that the colon is moving first. If the colon is moving and the body is nourished, then the next thing I actually do is support the immune health. So you can do this all at once. Supporting immune health can be from organic whole food sources. So we want to build up the immune health, because the immune health is actually your cell health, that mitochondrial health, and the cellular ATP needs to be high. So that is like, we have an immune support, which is vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin E, and zinc. And that's going to help your cells regenerate. They're almost like cellular proliferators, where your cells can regenerate faster and you're increasing the oxygen to your cells. And there's several other ways to do that as well. So next is the liver and the bile ducts. Now, if you start, this is why people have such different results in detoxification. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. This is amazing. This is working, da, da, da. They get like super excited. We want to bring them back down to medium and let them know, like, there's still a long process here. I know you're feeling great, but we still have a ways to go. Then there's the people that are like, this is not working for me. I feel terrible. And that is because this elimination is not open. And they could be pooping maybe, but the liver and bile ducts are clogged. Now, if the liver ducts and the bile ducts are clogged, this is really bad. Your liver is actually essential for metabolizing all the toxins in your body, the bacteria, the parasites. When we have gallstones, it actually means we have parasite stones. So the gallbladder actually takes bile and wraps it around parasites and pulls them out. And so when we have repeated gallstones, the underlying root issue is actually the parasites in the gut. So we need to go to the gut, get the parasites out, and then do the gallbladder flush. So you wouldn't want to flush first. You would want to parasite kill first, flush second. But prepare your body. So I always recommend a 30-day window of preparation. Prepare your body with alkaline foods, get your drainage pathways open, start flushing the liver. You can use fresh grapefruit juice, citrus like crazy. Citrus cleans the liver like crazy. You may even see an oily urine, like oil settle to the top of your urine. That's all this fatty liver and the bile duct fat and all that stuff leaving. But when these bile ducts are clogged, it will actually back up all of the waste that it's trying to detox, and it'll push it into the blood. And when it pushes it into the blood, we start to get like crazy itchy skin. We start to get that crazy brain fog. We'll have all sorts of symptoms where you can actually get LBA, live blood analysis, and see parasites in the blood. That isn't because, it's because the system got backed up and the liver had to push it somewhere. So when you see that those liver bile ducts get backed up, we start to see all sorts of other symptoms like this. And then from there, when those are backed up, it'll actually get backed up into the lymph, the blood, and then the brain. And so we need to make sure the liver and bile ducts are open. The next is the lymphatic system. That's the other tier. So cellular and digestive waste, like we mentioned, is pouring into the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is responsible for drainage into the liver, drainage into the colon. So as you see, you can be cleansing the lymph system, but if the drains aren't open, there's nowhere for that lymph to go. So that's why it's essential that number one, your kidneys are filtering, your liver and bile ducts are open, and your colon is moving. The lymphatic system actually backs up into what's called the glymphatic system, which is the brain health. And the brain, this is an essential piece. Obviously, the brain has a glymphatic drainage system that comes down into the lymph and then down into the liver and the kidneys and then down through the colon. And then all of our organs and tissues are always excreting waste. So waste doesn't just exist in our lymph system, it exists in our tissues, in our cells, and all of our cells make up our tissues. So those organs will be dumping that waste not only into the lymph, but into the tree trunk of the colon and then out through all of this as well. And then the very top is cells. And the reason why I talk about this is, yes, your cells purge their waste out, their cellular waste out. But when they purge their waste out, you could be bringing down your fungal levels to like, say here, say you bring them down 2/3 of the way and you're feeling better. But your energy is down here. Your mitochondrial cellular energy is down here. Your cell energy, it is essential that it's higher than your fungal level. Because if you have a low energy cell, a low ATP cell, or low mitochondrial energy in the cell, you actually cannot combat that level. It basically invites in an environment of fungus and toxins and parasites. So these are the people that feel like they candida cleanse and it comes back. They candida cleanse and it comes back. You need to get your cellular energy up above that level. So this is going to be really supporting the adrenal gland health, the ability to properly metabolize sugars, nourish your adrenals, get your drainage pathways open, stinging nettle tea, licorice root if you don't have high blood pressure, rest, 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 rest. So the adrenals take a hit. And if you are dealing with adrenal fatigue, some of the signs will be chronic fatigue, of course, ringing in the ears, weight gain, inflammation, and then all array of joint pain, health issues, all of that. So I'm going to stop my share really quick and talk just a little bit more about the nature of parasites. So when parasites do start to die, they actually lay eggs. That's their defense, is they start to lay eggs, and those eggs will hatch 15 to 20 days later. So it's essential when you're parasite cleansing, when you finish your parasite cleanse, that 15 to 20 days later, you come back in to sweep the rest out to make sure that more parasites don't hatch. So you want to finish the job. And you know, our society is really like fast and furious. We're like, we did a 10-day cleanse, we're good, right? No, we got to actually finish the job. You need to come in, clean the tissues and cells, kill off the parasites, come back in and repeat to make sure you've gotten it all after the drainage pathways are open. Keeping your cellular energy high is also essential during that time, like the whole time through. So your highest cellular foods are your fruits, your berries, and your melons, and your green juices. So really focusing on, you know, green juices and beet juices really oxygenate the tissues and cells. You can use carboxy minerals. There's like so many ways. So if you're dealing with like a deep fungal issue that seems to keep coming back, I recommend reaching out to your practitioner or finding a practitioner to help you through a protocol to get your body back into balance. I forgot what the next thing I wanted to mention was. So Reed, if you have anything to interject, I'm going to just look at my notes.
Hi, thank you so much, Carrie. This is beautiful. And I just wanted to highlight kind of what she's saying and also add in that imbalance. Like if there's a parasitic overgrowth in the body, there are cleaner uppers. So it's exactly what Carrie is saying, is like cleaning up our internal terrain and our inner environment, cleaning up that lymphatic system, because you know, if it's an overgrowth of candida, for instance, that candida is cleaning up heavy metal toxicity, you know, so we got to clean up that environment as well as support all of these systems in order to really address that root cause. And then so many parasites and such are cleaning up excess proteins that haven't been processed or digested or eliminated from the body. So again, just really highlighting what Carrie is speaking to as far as working with all systems of the body and working with getting our cellular energy and ATP up, because that is going to translate into our endocrine function. And that's going to translate into, you know, our healthy liver function. And that's going to translate into our kidneys properly eliminating this lymphatic congestion that gets built up. And when we clean up our environment, there's no reason to have those excess parasites present. So just wanted to add that in.
Exactly. Thank you, Rita. Yeah, the parasitic kingdom only comes in to clean up a mess. So if you have an alkaline body with high cellular ATP, parasites don't have a need to be present. So that's amazing. So when we think of like, how do we get these? It's our internal terrain. That's the germ theory versus terrain theory. So if your terrain is alkaline and clean, those things don't have a place. So the last thing I wanted to mention is something called mycotoxins. And mycotoxins is an important part of understanding bacteria, because mycotoxins are produced by some of the unhealthy overgrowth of bacteria that can actually harm human cells and cause death in cells and death in humans. So this is when you're at a severe level, right? So most of these people, like in cancer, we always have parasites. It's impossible to have cancer without having parasitic activity in your body, because the parasites are what have come in to clean up the mess, and they've also broken down the health of the cell. So mycotoxins are, you know, if you're detoxing too fast, if you're just trying to jump right into a detox, you could actually be triggering a lot of this, your body to be purging all of this fungal waste, lymphatic waste, cellular waste, mycotoxin waste into a system that's not draining. And you're going to get worse. Your symptoms are going to be terrible. So if you're having bad symptoms and you're in a detox with one of us, or you're in a detox with somebody else, please reach out to them. And, or if you're, you know, you've been through that process before and you're looking for support, whoever brought you to this call will get you connected with help. And I'm going to share one more thing and we'll be ending. So I like to cleanse in a very specific way. So phase 1 is focusing on drainage and energy. And so we always get the eliminated channels open, the kidneys open, the bile ducts open, and then increase the cellular energy of your cells. That's first and foremost, because if your cellular energy isn't high enough, the parasites will come back because the ATP is too low. Now, phase 2 is the gut support and the immune support. So the gut and the immune go together because 80% of your immune cells are made in your gut, like Rita mentioned at the beginning of the call. So really focusing on that regeneration of the gut biome, removal of chemical pesticides, re-strengthening the tight junctions in the gut lining. So you have that strong barrier from what comes in the body to what leaks into the immune and lymphatic system. So this is phase 2. And this just says all disease begins in the gut. That's from Hippocrates. And then phase 3 is the whole body immune support. So there's many things like, supporting whole body deeper than the gut is going to be like your swimming, your hot and cold showers, your breath work, your dry brushing. And then, making sure that the whole body is receiving alkaline energy, high minerals, ATP. And then phase 4 is the systemic detox. So that's when the actual detox starts to happen, is when we're removing waste, we're removing harmful chemicals through the drainage pathways that are open. And then after we are removing harmful systemic detox, then we can move into phase 5, which is deeper immune support. So this is not the phase that I bring all my patients through or clients through, but if you are dealing with fungus, chronic parasites, Lyme, or mold, this is what you need to do. And this is a 4-month to 10-month process. And so being patient and understanding that it doesn't happen in 30 days, that we actually have to regenerate all of our body and our tissues and cells. But what's amazing is that we can get to optimal health in about approximately 10 months. We don't make any promises, right? But approximately 4 to 10 months is really a drop in the hat when you look at how long you may have been struggling with Lyme or mold or candida or fungus or yeast. And then the nature of mold, we'll get into on our next call, but it attacks the thyroid tissue. There's all sorts of things that happen with mold exposure, and it can be, you might have been like, yeah, maybe a couple of times I was exposed to mold, but if you had low cellular ATP, you have to remember just those 2 times that you had exposure, that mold multiplies inside your body. So the nature of parasites is they multiply. They also are only in your body if you are the host. So if you host those parasites, then they start to breed and multiply more fungus, more mycotoxins, more yeast, more candida, and then we'll get into the gases that they release and all the intelligence that they have next week. So that's a lot of information for today. So I'm just going to pause. Does anybody have any questions at all before I stop recording or stop streaming?
Where will this replay, Carrie?
It'll get posted. It'll be on YouTube like usual, and it can get posted in the app, the Regenerative Health app, and it'll probably be on social media as well. And this is streamed live to Facebook right now. All right. Anybody else dealing with systemic issues and mold or candida or fungus that have questions? Okay, I'm going to stop recording.